All right, you guys. Well, thank you for coming. And so this presentation is just a little snack, little professional development about creating and sharing Flipgrid. So this was kind of like the base level one training for everyone that wanted to just kind of get out there. And then in December, I'm planning on doing a second one where we can kind of talk about more strategies for engaging students. So kind of the purpose is just professional development is to introduce Flipgrid to educators and staff and build a community to learn and explore new ideas together. So that's really what I hope to do. And I feel, there's no one way to do this. And that's kind of that's why there's and there's also a great community in Flipgrid that if you know how to use that, there's pre-made ones that you could access. So why Flipgrid? So for me, Flipgrid is an asynchronistic learning application that helps students interact and process information. So asynchronistic is like really something where it's like a blog, right? Or when in the Canvas where one person puts a prompt up and then each person responds on their own. And so this has a lot of good beneficial strategies for students, and there's a lot of research behind it that shows this actually does help deeper and improve students' outcomes because it benefits when students are able to hear students' thoughts and builds confidence on each other's work. So if they could hear other kids give them feedback, that also holds them responsible, and they get that student-on-student interaction that's a little deeper. And it is hard at first to kind of build that trust with students. And so there are some mechanics to Flipgrid that we could also work. And so just building those deeper connections on their metacognitive thinking. So the way they're thinking about thinking is so important for kids because sometimes we don't ever teach this. And this is something I came to later in my educational journey is that we need to have them think about what they're thinking about. So it's just they can kind of understand what's the purpose of it. And then that gives it value too. So that's one of the cool things about asynchronistic learning is that we're looking at it, all these different angles, and you don't have to answer it right away. You call on a student in class and they're like, or on a learning period meeting and they are embarrassed or shy to give you all that information that they know. So this is a form that I use, give me weekly updates, a minute on each subject. So then I can see you're progressing too. So that's why I use Flipgrid. So let's get started and we'll talk about the first steps of getting set up. So if you guys want to follow along with me, you can. So I'll give you a couple minutes to get in there, or you can just kind of watch it and then we'll kind of play around with it after. So basically the first thing you do is you go to flipgrid.com and click on educational sign up. So I'll give whoever wants to follow along a couple minutes or seconds, if you want to do this. And then from there, it's really easy to sign up because you could use your school account. And so that is linked to your Google. And so you could use your Google account to sign up for Sage Oaks. And that's good because you could also make different ones because I have my own personal one because my daughter lives in Texas. And last year during the pandemic, I wanted to know what she was learning in school. So I have a Flipgrid for each subject. So I would have her do it every day. And that came too extensive. So I learned that through that process. You can't do it every day, but once a week to kind of review, it's good to have that. And so you could also have different accounts with different emails and have them for different reasons too. But I use my Sage Oak email just to keep all my Sage Oak students and everyone in line with what's going on. So next, once you're all signed up, ready to go, it's a pretty easy process. Then you want to start your topic. So the topics are here in blue. And so you just basically click on that, and this will start your process of making a grid. So once you then pull up the topic form, you're going to have some different options there. So the first one's a title. You want to find a title to your Flipgrid, maybe something interesting or just kind of the big idea. And next is this description area. Or you will have a prompt. So you kind of want to give them what are you asking them and kind of explain what you want them to answer, and that will help guide them. Now this time setting is kind of an interesting component of that metacognitive thinking and kind of organizing things in your mind because different kids, 2 minutes seems like a long time when you're trying to record a video, and then but 30 seconds might seem too short. So the time frame is really important when you're trying to build something for a student. And you got to think about it, because also when they're taking all that information and they have to condense it to a minute or 2 minutes, that they're taking all those ideas that they've had already, and then they have to organize them in their brain. So when they organize it in their brain, they're actually making deeper connections to the content that you're having them reteach you, basically, and other students. So that's organizing it in their brain. So that's an important component, you know, to think about too. Next, what you're going to do, this is an important one. This is the moderation. So if you click that toggle to the other way, that stops kids from seeing other kids' Flipgrids before you could check them. So you never know what kids are going to say or if it's going to be offensive. So that's a great way to make sure that, you know, what kids are putting out there is safe for everyone. So that's where it kind of does get tedious, where you have to check everyone's all the time and make sure that everyone's on the same topic. But that is a good help as a teacher, making sure, you know, it's not like some other thing where they're just saying whatever and you don't have any control over it. So that adds a little bit of responsibility for the teacher there. This is what a great feature about it is, that you could add all these favorite multimedia things. So you can basically record a simple video. You can even use a YouTube video, like a TED Talk or something, and put that up, and then have like a simple response, you know, like a minute, like, what'd you think about these ideas of, you know, growth mindset? Say that's something big we're working on right now. You can make it fun with a Giphy, emojis. You can have them even do a Kahoot and then give responses about what they felt, or a Nearpod, so like a presentation. So all those multimedias that we already use could be added into this, and that's like a great way to really help the students, you know, it brings them more alive and interact with it. So another important one is you want to make it public, since, you know, all our students have different emails from who knows where or what. You need to make it public, because if it's private, it'll only work with certain domains, and especially since ours is sayjokes.education, none of our students have that. So if you don't change it to public, none of the students can access it. And then basically after that, you're just gonna create a topic. And then if behind this pop-up, it'll show all your Flipgrids, and in blue it'll say share. So when you click on share, then you give you this link, and that's how you share the Flipgrid with other students. So you can just click copy, and then you could rather put it in an email, a text message, or even a Google Classroom if you have that. I find like text messages probably work the best, and I'd use Google Voice. So, you know, they don't have actual my phone number, so it's kind of like a way to separate yourself a little bit. But, you know, send a text, they click on the link, it takes them right to the Flipgrid, and it's super accessible through your phone and the app too. So let me give you a little example what it looks like when students are kind of working through it. So say here's their phone, right? This is what the app looks like down here. So you pull that up, and then right here, you're gonna put the code. So you can put the whole link or just the last digits, and that will bring you to the Flipgrid. So here's asking you, what's your first and last name? What's your favorite animal, your favorite food, and a place you'd like to travel. So that's just a very introductory one that we'll all work on and do later. And it's got like a little Giphy there to kind of bring it alive, really basic. But then they click on that response, and then they have to log in. So that might be some setup beforehand with the student that you might have to do, but it's super easy to download and sign in. And then they record their video. So here's one of my best students right here. His name's Mr. Kingdom. And so you just click this middle button, it records it, and you kind of just answer those questions basically and really go through it. And here you could also, before you record, add in little flares of emojis and drawings and stuff. And we'll talk about that next time when we get, but then they review it overall and make sure it's what they wanted to say. And they can do that as many times as they want. It's not, or, you know, they can just go first take. That's where I like to go, just go from the heart. So, and once they do that, you hit this green button once you're okay with it. And then that will take you here. And here you put your name, and you can even add on this next line under it, links. So like a Google Doc, like if you want them to explain more on that one. And then for their cover picture, I have them take a selfie. So here, I took a picture, and then I put an emoji, just put it over my face. It's not too scary when kids first see it. You can resize it, and then you just hit this, and that will be the cover photo. So on your Flipgrid, and this bottom one's going to be your title. And then once you're done with that, you submit it, and it says success. And then because this doesn't have the moderator on because we're using it, it'll go straight to the Flipgrid and then it's there. And then you click on it and it plays the video. So that's basically how a student would work through it. And that's how it would work for the student. So, because sometimes you're like, okay, I know how to do my end, but what does it look like for them? So that's why I wanted to kind of take you on what it would look like when they're doing it and what to expect. So the process is really easy. You kind of find a topic, you share it with your students, and you give feedback and repeat. And like I said, there's a good community in Flipgrid where there's so many great topics that people have already come up with, and you can just easily just copy it and have all these different Flipgrids. So you could share this topic to start in your own too. And you can save it as a collection, add a topic. And so those are some basic ones that they have kind of pre-made for everyone, which is a great way to find topics that, you know, sometimes it's hard to think of them at first before you get going. So that's a good way. And then share it. I say making it easy and accessible. So the best way is like an email. So I've kind of added like all my subjects, core subjects, math, English, science, social science, and then link them in there so they can click on each one that leads them to each Flipgrid. You could get and then give feedback, and the feedback is not only from the teacher but it's from other students. That holds them accountable because then they're like, oh, I need to, you know, I see everyone else or someone responds to me, so I need to respond back to them. So that's just a part of that accountability part. So that's kind of interesting about Flipgrid. So that kind of makes us that we have to be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. And that's really an interesting idea when we're going forward, because in education, especially in the way that we do it, is that we're so far apart from each other and we're not in our classrooms. But this is a way to bring people together and have that conversation piece that I believe is super important in education, because I feel like, yeah, there's a curriculum, but we all have our own ideas, and especially in today's age, that we need to find that medium of what a classroom used to be. Like we would have to all come together on a consensus idea and, you know, debate and talk. And this kind of gives us a way to connect us again. And so those conversations do matter. So now I would just like us to kind of try it. We can just stay on and then have you guys kind of do your own responses and sign in and get started. So let me put this in the chat and you guys could get going on there we go. So it's in the chat, so you can click on that and we can get going. Oh, I sent it to Jared only. There we go. All right, so why don't you guys try it and then we'll just be on and then practice in our Flipgrid. So I'm gonna stop the recording here.